Hey guys, this is Pastor Fernando, and I just want to come by and give you a little bit of recap of what we talked about on Tuesday night. So we just came back from camp. Those of you who weren't able to go to winter camp, don't worry about it. Next year we're going to have an opportunity, and possibly this summer we're going to have a summer retreat. So be on the lookout for that. So Tuesday night, this is what we talked about. We talked about the parable of the sower. Jesus liked to tell stories, and one of them is called the parable of the sower. As we're coming back from the mountain, the Lord put in my heart to talk a little bit about what it looks like when you come back and how significant it is for us to protect the Word of God that He's put in our hearts. And so I want to share with you what it says in Matthew chapter 13, verses 4 to 9. Here it is. Listen, a farmer went out to plant some seeds. As he scattered them across the field, some seeds fell on a footpath, and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on shallow soil with underlying rock. The seed sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow, but the plants soon wilted under the hot sun. And since they didn't have deep roots, they died. Verse 7, other seeds fell among the thorns that grew up and choked out the tender plants. So other seeds fell on fertile soil, and they produced a crop that was 30, 60, and even 100 times as much as it had been planted. Jesus tells the parable of the sower. Then later in verse 18, he explains it. And this is basically what he says. There's four kinds of hearts. The first one is the one that is on hard-packed road or pathway. The seed is thrown out, lands on the top, but since it's so hard-packed, the seed doesn't go through. The birds come, they eat it, and then that's where the story ends. No growth, no life, nothing. The second kind of heart, now this is the seed that falls in a little bit of dirt, but since there's not a lot of soil, there's not a lot of depth, and there's no roots. And so then the plant dies. The third kind of heart is a seed that falls onto soil, grows a little bit, but there's thorns and there's weeds, and it gets choked out and it dies. The fourth one is the good soil. The seed is thrown out, lands in good soil, goes deep with the roots, grows, and then flourishes and multiplies and yields tons of crops. Four kinds of people. And then Jesus explains what that means. The first one is a person that hears the message, but it's not that they can't understand the message, it's that they won't. They will push back on the word. The second kind of person is the kind of person that hears the message and grasps a little bit because they're enthusiastic about it. They hear about it, they're encouraged, but they're not convicted. And so what ends up happening is that the word doesn't really go in deep. And after the trials and the tribulations come, well, that person just kind of withers away because there was no true conversion. There was no true conviction. It didn't go deep. The third kind of person is a tricky one. You see, because that one looks like it's going to grow. It looks promising. But what ends up happening is that root goes deep, plants itself, but then there's weeds around it. And what happens is that flower grows and the thorns choke out the flower. And it ends up dying. And the fourth one is the healthy soil. That is the kind of person who hears the message, understands it, and applies it. In other words, this is the good soil. Hears the message and obeys. Hears the message and obeys. You can be the good soil. You can be the good soil, but you have to be careful that you don't fall into any other of the other categories. You see, the third one, that one's a sneaky one because that one looks like it's promising and it looks like it's going to grow. But what ends up happening is the love of other things ends up choking its faith. So be careful. The reason I'm sharing this is because many of you went to the mountain and got a word. The word was planted in your heart. Take care of the soil. This is the hard part. This isn't the easy part because you have to take care of your heart. We have to take care of the soil. And depending on that, we'll see growth. So in order to produce fruit, we must have a teachable heart. Which soil are you? Are you the soil that is producing fruit, or are you the soil that is killing fruit? I hope this blessed you. I hope this is something that makes sense to you. I want to encourage you to go into Matthew 13, read it, observe it, apply it in your life. This is Pastor Fernando. I hope this blesses you.